Hello, and welcome to True Horrors with Meg and Rachel. Every week we discuss a horror film and the true stories that inspired, influenced, or bear striking resemblance to them. Be warned for spoilers and adult themes. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Meg.
This is True Horrors.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, hey.
We're excited to see you. I know last episode went through a whole thing about seeing it, but I've just decided to lean into it.
Okay.
Because I can't stop saying we're excited to see you. I can't stop. Before we started recording, Rach and I were talking about, at this point, we don't have any kind of sponsorship, so we were just going to do our own advertisements for things.
You want to take it away, Meg?
Sure. Water. The nectar of life. You're made of it and you need it. Water. Drink it today. And tomorrow and the next day and every day to the rest of your life because you have to.
Oh, man.
So
I cannot. I'm crying.
you're crying at least partially water.
Mostly water, just salty water.
Salty water.
Don't drink salty water. That should be in the disclaimer.
You should
Go back.
The
The PSAs.
yes, I'll
Don't drink salt water. It will dehydrate you and ultimately drive you crazy. Stick with fresh water.
1990s NBC Rainbow, the more you know.
Yes, there we go.
I remember when I learned that about salt water because I was watching some kind of like day movie about these kids that were lost at sea, and one of them drank the water and ended up like jumping in because he thought he saw an island. And that's how I learned that you don't drink salt water.
You know, you want to know how I learned?
I do.
When I was a child, I don't know when, but I know it was before I was 10 because it was before we moved. I had this book about how to survive if you end up on a deserted island. And it said, don't drink salt water.
How old were you?
Younger than 10. I read that book a lot.
Is that a symptom of anxiety or is that a cause of anxiety?
You know, I've tried to figure this out for a while. I don't know. I don't know why my parents let me have that book. I think I got it from like the Scholastic like book fair like catalogs that they send home. Like I would circle a bunch of them and my mom would be like, all right, well, you can have these books. I think that's how I got it.
Well, I know why you had it. The same reason I had things I had were youngest children. Rachel and I are both youngest children, and anyone who's the youngest of more than two knows that the rules don't necessarily apply the same. Like, they're less worried about you seing things because they just can't really prevent it at that point.
In this same time period, I had this book. I still have this book. About the Holocaust that, again, I read many times. And I should not have been allowed to read these things at such a young age.
No, I feel the same way about A Child Called It because my sister was reading it. And my sister had to go tell my mom she didn't think I should be reading it. And then I got real mad because I was like, anything you can read, I can read. Like, I mean, I could intellectually read it. Should I have been reading it? I mean, at the age I was, who's to say? But you picked this week. You picked Psycho, which I wrote in my book as Psycho with an exclamation point. You want to tell us a little bit about why you picked Psycho?
It's the OG slasher movie. And you also know how I like black and white horror films. I like making people watch things that they probably don't want to watch. I thought I'd go back to old film that nobody wants to talk about.
I would just say as our disclaimer for this, we appreciate this film. Alfred Hitchcock was the worst.
Oh, such the worst.
We could do a whole podcast on that. But I just want to say for anyone who is listening to this and thinking to themselves, wow, he was the worst. Oh, yes. Why, yes, he was.
Absolutely.
And the fact that he made great movies does not excuse that in any way, shape, or form.
Nope.
But Psycho did a lot of fun things. Also, side note, I literally had to look this up because I was like, this movie was made in the 60s, wasn't it? And Wizard of Oz was made in the 30s. So he chose this movie to be in black and white, didn't he?
The thing is, I was looking into that too because I was like, when did they start releasing color films? Yeah, like I always thought that they went back and made like and colored The Wizard of Oz, but no, they shot it in Technicolor. But the thing is, I did this while I was watching the movie, and I didn't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole. I don't know when it became common to start shooting things in color. But I feel like when did Guess Who's Coming to Dinner come out?
That was in the 60s. 60s?
Was that in black and white? I can't remember.
That was not in black and white.
Okay.
I know that was not in black and white. But this is my Achilles heel. I'm the worst with dates. Like, I'm like,
same.
when did... I'm like, I can give you a rough decade. I could also quote the movie for you because I can remember those kinds of things. But, and I'm not hating on that. Like, I don't hate on movies that are made today that are in black and white. I was just trying to figure out if that was part of what he was doing. We don't talk a lot about, like, director's intent. We more talk subject. But, yeah, and just on that same note, great music. Another great...
Such great music.
Iconic soundtrack. Background music. The intro was way too long, though. Like, I don't know what he thought he was doing. But I, like, was like, I'm going to just, get up, get a drink. And I was like, still going? We're still doing it? Yeah.
Like, Okay, so I got this from the library online. There was no intro for me. It just went straight into it.
It was 2.5 minutes of credits and music and shots of, I don't even remember at this point. I was watching it.
Maybe. Was it shots of the city? Because I just went straight into a skyline. Okay, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember it.
Maybe my version was just weird that I did not get mine from the library. So maybe mine was just weird. But let's dive right into subject. I want to start right off the bat because, of course, I immediately picked up my phone and figured out what $40,000 would be today.
I never got around to doing that. What is it?
Well, first, I just want to say, even today, if someone came in and had $40,000 in cash, I would still think it was crazy. Like, absolutely insane. But this is over $331,000. That is what he was in cash. And, like, again, anyone who has any amount of cash that I feel like is, over a certain amount is weird. So even when it was 40, but I was like, oh, wow, this is even more than that.
Yeah. Well, also just what I did end up looking up was how much the average house cost in 1960. It was $12,700. The average, and he's buying a house for $40,000.
For his daughter.
For his daughter, who's 18 years old.
And getting married.
Getting married, yep.
Which I guess we can't really say anything. It's 1960. I mean, like, I feel like people got married. We also probably shouldn't because my mom got married at 19. So it's not like it's that.
Yeah.
That crazy, but it still is crazy to have that kind of house. I just want to make a sweeping statement about this movie right from the start. Every single person in this movie is bad at everything. There's not a single person. That's not a thing on their character. That's just they can't do anything. Everyone is the most suspicious. No one knows how to chill. No one in this movie has any damn chill. No one knows how to do their job. The killer doesn't have any chill. None of the victim's boyfriend. They all are the most suspicious all the time. And and I wanted to go make popcorn just so I could throw it at my television and be like, boo, suspicious. No one knows how to act like a person in this movie.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say.
So when I want to say Marion, I saw something about the book, and I think her name in the book is Mary. So Marion, I think is her name.
Yes.
But when that cop asks for her driver's license, she freaks out, and she's like, why? And I'm like, because that's what they do when they pull you over.
Because they just found you sleeping on the side of the road. Like, she could not have acted more, like, awkward and weird. Except then she had her exchange with the guy she was buying the car. And I'm like, oh, you can be even worse. Like, everything about her, like she couldn't even have like a good cover story, even when given time. She'd been driving for so long. She didn't think of a cover. She had time to imagine what her sister and her coworker and her boss were all going to be thinking to play those sentences, but she couldn't think like, what should I say if someone asks me what I'm doing? But just to stick on Marion being awful at everything, she writes down her fake name in the book, and then she writes down a fake city, and then within an hour tells him her real name and the different city. I was like, boo. Boo, you don't deserve $40,000.
Well, she wasn't going to keep it. Like, I think she realized in her heart she didn't deserve it, so she had to take it back.
But she still is like, and I'm going to go back home to Arizona or whatever. And I'm like, you told him you were from Los Angeles. Why are you so awful at this? Also, like, even if that guy was flashing around the money, I was like, you just screwed over your boss, who you've been working together for 10 years. He trusted you with this. And also, you're doing it because your boyfriend's kind of the worst. Like, not to make again, like a generalization, because I know it's a different time, but I felt like watching this movie, I was like, is the real, like, conflict toxic masculinity in this movie? Because he won't marry her because he thinks he's, like, dooming her to some life because he has to pay alimony to his ex and can't, like, provide her with all this stuff. Which I'm like, first of all, is that weird bullshit? Because, like, you think that you're somehow doing her a disservice by marrying her and you have to, like, lick the stamp or whatever. But you're having sex with her in all these hotel rooms.
I know.
Like, it's
like, those ain't cheap.
It's yes, that's not what I was thinking about. I was more thinking that they're having sex than the fact that they're doing it in expensive hotel rooms. I was more thinking about the fact that, like, he's already in some ways, like, I don't know how to put it, but it's like you're already sleeping with her, but you're saying, oh, but, you know, this wouldn't be fair to you. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, but that he feels like he can't provide for her or whatever. He's like, oh, once I don't have to pay this. And I'm like, so she steals us money because of that. And I'm like, not worth it. Like, not at all worth it. What are the odds that your boss is crossing the street when you're running away with money you just stole? Bad luck, Marion.
I just want to say, also, I was not expecting to like this movie quite as much as I did. Like, I was expecting to like it because I like old movies. But the thing about old movies is that the pacing is always very weird. Because it's just different. And I feel like that was not so much the case with this. Like, I felt like it had much more modern pacing than other old horror movies that I've seen.
Oh my God, have you never seen this movie?
No, I've never seen this movie.
That's so exciting. You didn't tell me that. I didn't realize you'd never seen it. Oh my God, this is my second time seeing it, so it's not like I've watched it a bunch. But oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is, like, because this movie is also predicated on that surprise ending, I obviously knew all that. Like, I knew everything all the famous stuff, but it was still, like, really interesting and really suspenseful, and I see why it became an instant classic.
Because there were two surprises. Because, like, no one expected her to die. And also, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think this was the first shower scene.
I think so.
I think that's also why people were like, oh my God, she's in the shower. And like, oh my God, she's dead. I also really appreciate that it was a movie where we saw someone move a body. Like, always what happens in horror movies is someone murders the fuck out of someone, and then it's like we cut scene and the body's gone or whatever, but it's like, okay, what about them moving it? But we saw him cleaning that crime scene and moving it so much. I'm like, I appreciate this. Like, it doesn't take me out of it at all. It's more like, I'm like, wow, he's done this before, clearly. He has a plan.
Yeah.
Also, he's kind of cute. Like, I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I wrote that down. I was like, every now and again, like when he would first show up again, I'd be like, it is really fucking with my head how attractive this man is. He needs to stop it.
Yeah.
But I also I was expecting him to be way creepier. Like, when you first meet him, he seems pretty normal. It, like, the weird stuff very slowly creeps in. And I really enjoyed that.
I think that's definitely part of it, because I think too many times movies either give it away right in the beginning by making him seem really creepy,
Right.
or they go the other direction and make him seem so normal, and then you're like, where did that come from? Whereas this
Right.
started going out, like, my first thing, I obviously know, just like you, what's going to happen, but like, let's eat surrounded by all these dead stuffed birds.
Oh my God, yes.
Was my first. And then I wrote this. I'm just going to read you what I wrote. My hobby is stuffing, is probably the most terrifying sentence. And then a boy's best friend is his mother. Never mind.
Yes.
That's the most terrifying sentence.
I literally had to pause the movie and walk away. Like, I did a bunch of housework before I could come back, and then I was like, wait, I think I might have missed things, and I had to watch it again, and I got chills the second time I heard it. I was really upset I had to hear it a second time.
It's just, both those sentences are so close to each other. Anyone who says that their hobby is like that's my hobby, and then he's like, it just fills the time, blah blah blah. I was like, oh my God. And then I wrote, everything he says keeps getting one step more terrifying and awful in this scene. He did, like, it really kept getting worse and worse. And then I wrote, he's not wrong about asylums, about not wanting his mother there, although his mother's dead, so it doesn't matter, but still.
Yeah. That's why he can't put her in one. They don't accept dead people. They can't take care of the live people they have. You want them to look after a dead body? Come on.
Also, what is her mascara in this movie? Oh my
Right?
God. I was like, I'm actually in between mascaras. I can't find one I really like. And I have similar eyes to her. Like, I have very big round eyes. Obviously Rachel knows that. I'm saying that for all of you. But I have eyes like that. So I've always wanted to get that kind of 60s look, because I have those, deep eyes. And I was like, what is your mascara, girl? Like, that's not clumping at all. I just keep reading. She is the worst at everything.
It bears repeating.
Also, I wrote, she is as harmless as one of these stuffed birds. LOL.
I literally said to my computer, I wouldn't call those stuffed birds harmless.
I was more like, that's some intense foreshadowing. Did he chuckle to himself, or is he too much in the middle of a mental break to do that? Like, was he like, that was funny because I have my mother's corpse up there. You'll get it. Oh, wait, you won't. I'm going to kill you.
No,
Never
you
mind.
won't get it.
That house is boss. I would live in that house.
Yes. Not with the dead body in it. The dead body would be the first thing I'd change. Also, all her decor would have to go because it's all creepy statues of hands. I did not care for that. But...
Oh my God. Do you think that was someone's real house? And that was just the way they decorated it, and he walked in and was like, perfect. I don't want to change a thing.
I want to piggyback off of everyone is bad at everything. With all the sneaking around these people do, why won't any of them close a door? Like, that's the first giveaway if you were sneaking around leaving the door open, because the person would be like, I didn't leave that door open. Someone is sneaking. Why won't anyone close a fucking door?
Yeah, no, that is such a good point. Such a good point. I kind of want to keep on the everyone being bad at everything, but I did have a comment. But I wrote in my notes, because when he's talking to that cop or private eye, I wrote, he sucks at everything too. You just said no one was here, and then you say the couple from last. He was so
bad at it.
So bad at everything.
Also, the PI kept talking about getting a warrant, and I was like, PIs don't get warrants. You're not he specifically said he was not a police officer. Like, is it just like, do you think it's that they didn't think the audience would know that, or that they didn't think that Norman Bates would know that and it would freak him out?
I guess I kind of
trigger him into saying something.
I guess I kind of thought he meant I'd have to go to the police and get a warrant.
Okay.
Like, because he's right. He doesn't have the right to search any of this if Norman says no, unless he goes to the police and gets a search warrant. Also, we talk about the fact that Norman did not even change the guest book. He did not even change the guest book.
Didn't even white it out. Like, I'm pretty sure whiteout existed in 1960. Like, I don't know. Maybe it didn't. But still. Rip the page out.
a slur on your manhood.
Yes.
I was like, what a
I love it.
sentence. What an absolute sentence. Which, just to go back to when he's getting rid of the body, what the hell would he have done if that car had stopped? Like, he was looking around, and I'm like, what are you going to do right now? And then it was like, oh, thank God it went down. And I'm like, I don't even know what you would have done. Like, I kind of visualized him, like, doing, like, a Wile E. Coyote and stomping on it to see if it got down. But I was like, that can't be what he does. Like, I couldn't remember. And I was like, oh, it just goes down. Okay. That fall down the stairs, though.
Oh, the best. The best. Also, as soon as he started walking up those stairs, I was like, why is he so tiny? Like, those stairs dwarfed him. It was the weirdest shot.
I wrote, Lila doesn't give a shit, Sam.
No, she does not.
She's looking for her sister.
Mm-hmm.
Like, stop. Which I also, when I first saw the movie the first time, I forgot that, like, they're not a couple. It's that they're both looking for sister/girlfriend. Everyone is bad at everything in this movie. Sam is the worst at everything, is what I wrote at the end. He can't do shit. Like, they're all just really bad. Like, even when he's like, she's like, can I come with you? He's like, no, you can't. She's like, can I have a reason? He's like, I have no idea. Why don't I make one up? I was like, was this part improv? Like, did Hitchcock say you have to stop her? And the actor was like, but it seems like she should come with me. And he's like, I'm not interested in what you think.
Also, speaking of Sam being bad at everything, when he's like, oh, I'm going to go keep Bates occupied while you search the house, and then immediately starts accusing him of murder, like, that's going to keep him here in this room with me. People love being accused of murder.
And he won't be suspicious of you at all. Even when they are checking in, they're the worst. Yes. Like, they are not doing that in any, like, I just think any other person, like if you and I were investigating something, would be able to do it at least marginally better. Like, at least have like like, it was so weird how everyone just like couldn't stop being like so suspicious.
Yes.
Everyone was just like getting caught in every lie. Who's the woman in the window? When they're talking to the cop, to the sheriff, and they're like, oh, he's dead, she's dead and buried. And like, well, then who was the old woman? I'm like, that's the best red herring in history. Because as an audience member who doesn't know what's going to happen, you're probably thinking, oh, who does that woman end up being?
Yeah.
And it doesn't even, and you kind of dismiss the fact that the mother is supposed to be dead.
Right.
Who's the woman in the grave, I think is actually the line. Yeah. Because they make you think maybe, great line. She screams really loud when she sees that body.
Yeah, which, that's fair.
She does not.
But also, you're sneaking around a house. Maybe try to put a lid on it.
She also did not scream at all when he came in with the knife. And I don't know if that was meant to be shock. But she screamed really loud.
I feel like she's like, you know what? I've already found a dead body. Like, it can't get worse from here. Like, you know?
Yeah.
But also, Sam is good for something. He disables the knife wielding. He's like, I gotcha. Like, although it takes him a really long time to get that knife out of his hand. Like, it's because he's doing it from behind. Like, he really needs to go around the other way. Like, he's not good at it, but at least he does do something useful, is what I'm trying to say.
That was a moment where I was definitely like, okay, this is for the shot. More than how an actual person would do that.
Because, yeah, like, if your hand slips, you got to go the other way.
Rachel is just acting all this out. I know none of you can see
it. Yeah, I'm demonstrating how to protect yourself, how to get some sort of, like, sharp object out of a person's hand if they are swinging it at you.
As iconic as this movie is, and as good as so much of it up, the ending is just awful.
Yes,
it's so clunky. It's so like Professor Explain It All at the end. I found that whole thing. I was just like, what is like? And then he's like looking at Lila, and he's like, he was aroused by your sister, and I'm like, what is happening right now?
Why is that a sentence you needed to say?
And then it's like he murdered his mother and he murdered her boyfriend and he had some kind of weird fixation and was jealous. And so anytime he blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, was there no way you could think to do this that wasn't like that? Like, considering all of the groundbreaking things in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, it's just like, let's all do a Scooby-Doo reveal of the villain. Like, I did not like that. The final scene is really great. But that final part, I was just like, oh God, fine. So let's just, it might have even been better if there'd been flashbacks or something. Like then maybe it wouldn't have seemed so clunky.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that part.
Yeah, to have this guy that, like, we don't even know come in, and I don't know. It's like having a narrator, which isn't always terrible in a movie, but it usually is. Mm-hmm. Like, if I watch a movie and I hear a narrator, I'm like, oh God. Like, do I want to keep watching this movie?
Rachel has strong narrator feelings.
I do.
Do you have any more thoughts on the movie?
I don't think so. I think that's most of them.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10. And he killed other women too. So we're not just thinking Marion. You have to be a thief too. You don't have to be Marion. Just, do you think you would have died? Scale of 1 to 10.
Well, I would have locked my motel door.
He had a key. I guess
he's got a master key, yeah. And no, because he starts off so, like, normal. I don't know. I might get murdered.
I was going to put your chance of murder at pretty high.
Yeah. Unless I'm, like, one of the people, like, who comes along later who's already suspicious. But if it's just, like, a random person, I'm like, oh, I don't know. But I don't know that I would stay at a motel so far off from where everyone else is.
It didn't seem like people did that intentionally. It seems like they got off, they were lost. Like, she was lost. So no, I agree, I wouldn't want to. But if I got there, if I was in a storm and I got there and he was like, oh, just get back on the road, I'd probably be like, I'll just stay here. Because he also isn't scary. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wonder if just by being young women, if we were traveling alone the way Marion was, I wonder if we'd have a high likelihood of being murdered, because it's just if he's like attracted to you, he murders you, or she murders you, whatever. But also, like, I don't think either of us would have spent any time alone with him. So when he would have made the offer about dinner, I would have been like, oh, I'm not hungry, peace.
Yeah. It's just hard because she had already said she was hungry, but again, everyone's bad at everything, so she could have just kept lying. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm going to say, if we're talking beginning of the movie before we're suspicious, a 7 maybe?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But like a 1 if it's after. Like if I'm the Lila position, like I'd be well, she does live, but I also would be, a little bit more cautious. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's less, but I think like overall, if you're thinking of yourself as like, because I don't think this was a movie where it was about like making mistakes or summoning a demon or things like that. It was just about like being a woman who existed, in his purview and by yourself. Mm-hmm. So I think there's like a high likelihood that we would both be murdered.
Yeah, pretty much.
Unless we were traveling together.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, then
nothing.
But also, did the bathroom door not lock? Like, lock the bathroom door. There aren't keys to bathrooms. You just got to break them down.
I don't really know if there was a lock on the bathroom door. Also, he could have just killed her when she opened the door then.
That's true. You don't have to be in the shower to get murdered.
What if he was like, oh God, that's way too much cleanup, whatever. I love how he did not even care. He threw that money into the bog.
He didn't know it was there.
No, but he didn't even, it's not even like he went through her stuff to get valuables.
Yeah, like,
that's not what it was about, but it still cracked me up that it was in some ways about the money. But like, he was just like, who got the money? The swamp got the money. I was like, you're done. You're done. I'm going to start answering that when people are like, who got the last cookie? The swamp. got the last cookie.
Yes.
This half of the episode is brought to you by swamps.
Oh, God.
Build your house there. And then tell riddles to anyone who wants to get through. Swamps. The best place for people being made to tell riddles and ask them.
I just want to break in with a public service announcement. Do not build your house in a swamp. The foundation will constantly be moving.
Do it.
Your house is going to fall apart immediately.
Moving house.
The more you know. No, it's going to sink into the swamp. Like that castle in Monty Python.
Disappearing house. You'll be the only house on your block under the bog. All right, Rach.
Okay, so Psycho, OG slasher film, Ed Gein, OG inspiration for movie serial killers. He inspired this, he inspired Leatherface, and he inspired Buffalo Bill. But before I tell you about Ed Gein, I want to paint you a little word picture about 1957. Just to kind of give you an idea of the kind of cultural impact his crimes had.
Do it.
So it's the height of the baby boom and suburbanization. The GIs come back, they go to college, they go buy a house. We got hula hoops, we got slinkies, we got the first Frisbee. I can't remember what website I found all these facts on, but it'll be posted. I Love Lucy and Perry Mason are on TV. Elvis buys Graceland in 1957. But also the Cold War is happening, so it's not all like sock hops and milkshakes.
Also, a lot of racism.
So much racism. I mean, that's what suburbanization is all about, is white people moving out of cities to get away from black people. Mm-hmm. Khrushchev keeps threatening nuclear annihilation, like, all the time. Also, down in Arkansas, they're trying to desegregate schools, and that's super horrible. So that's 1957 in America in a nutshell. But I'm going to take you to Plainfield, Wisconsin, which is somewhere like kind of centrally located. And as of the 2010 census, there are 840 people living there. In between like 1950 and 1960, it was somewhere around 650 people. Tiny fucking town. So on November 16th of this year, Bernice Warden is reported missing. She owns a hardware store. She's not there. There's a trail of blood leading out of it. Her son is a sheriff. He's kind of suspicious about this Ed Gein fella. No, he's not suspicious. He's suspicious of somebody.
No, I thought you were saying I thought you were like, he came up on this trail of blood and that made him suspicious. I thought that's what you were saying. And I was like, I mean, it'd make me suspicious too. I thought that's what you were saying.
No, he's like, this Ed Gein fella's real weird. Let's go check out his house. So the cops go there and they find Bernice Warden hanging from the rafters, headless. Her head's in another room in a burlap sack. It's horrible. Again, 650 people in this town. They're not used to this nonsense. They find Ed Gein real quickly, apprehend him, and... Oh, wait. Hold on. I'm jumping ahead because I forgot to tell you about the horror show that is this house. I'm just getting too excited. Okay, I wrote down a nice little list of things that they found. Besides Bernice Warden. Chairs upholstered with human skin. Skulls turned into soup bowls. And I don't want to be this guy, but I just feel like a human skull would not make a very good soup bowl because of the eye sockets.
And the mouth.
Yeah, well, the jaw is a separate piece. So it's like, I read that it was the top. So it's just not going to be a very big bowl. I just am saying, I don't think it's efficient. They found 9 women's faces on the wall. Just faces looking at him every day. Um, he had made a little vest out of a woman's torso. He had a box of noses. He had a box of female genitals. He had a heart. He had a pair of lips attached to either, according to a couple different websites I read, a nightshade pull or a curtain pull. But anyway, he had to use lips to pull something. And the prize of the collection, the nipple belt, which I always forget about. As soon as I read it, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that nipple belt, because my brain is just like, this is not something we need. Let's just dump that information. But now I'm not going to be able to just do that. So that's my list of things. Do you have any thoughts? Do you need to get anything out?
I have thoughts. Mostly it's me, so I can't help this extreme, like, obvious empathy for the victims, but also just the incredible empathy for the police officers who were not in any way trained for this, who had never seen anything. It was the 50s, that they probably thought it was hell. Like, I just think about myself in the 50s. Not that I was there, not that I am immortal or anything, but I just think of myself in the 50s, like, in Plainsville, which I do know at least. I mean, I'm bad at geography, but I do have some kind of idea where that is because I'm originally from Wisconsin. And so to think of them walking into that house, and it's bad enough to see your mother decapitated and her body hanging, but then to be like, what is that lamp? And then to be like, this, like, I would just be like, this is hell. Like, he's a demon. Like, this is the worst thing ever. And I even think today, forget the 1950s, if I walked into an apartment and somebody was had human faces on the wall, I would be like, oh, my apologies. I seem to have opened the door to some kind of terrifying hell dimension. Goodbye. I will see myself out. Yeah. Also, I kind of think it's funny. I didn't know if it was part of your narrative exercise, but to be like, oh, wait, I've got to describe this house, because I was sitting here, because I also blocked this out, thinking, he cut off her head. Why is that like Buffalo Bill? And then I was like, oh, God. Those are all the things that I have to say. That, and this is a nightmare.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so they apprehend him. He very quickly confesses to murdering Bernice and a woman named Mary Hogan, who owned a tavern and had been murdered 3 years before. She was plus size, so he figured she would be big enough to make a suit out of her skin. What up, Silence of the Lambs? Slight difference. He's not killing many women to make a suit. I think he just wanted to wear one woman's skin. I guess that this is just the torso vest. I don't know. Because he also admitted to robbing lots of graves. So it's hard to say where a lot of these came from. Yeah. So
I was like, that's not enough for the parts you've just described. That's not enough.
Those are the only two women he confessed to killing. There were a couple disappearances earlier on, but they were never able to link those to him. He just did a lot of grave robbing. And he did have an assistant who died, I think. And that's why he started killing, because he couldn't rob graves on his own. So now let's do a little background to who this man is. So he was born in 1906 in La Crosse, Wisconsin, actually. He was not originally from this tiny town. His mother was super religious and always, strongly warned him about the dangers of lust, because that's a surefire way to fuck up your kid. His father, everything said that he was like really timid and an alcoholic, but I don't have a whole lot of details on his parents. I got a lot of my information from like A&E's biography website, rather than any like long form biography, because I do not need 230 pages of information about this man's life. Like,
that's fair.
I don't need that in my life. But they moved to Plainfield in 1915, so he would have been 9 years old, because his mother wanted to get away from the sin of La Crosse. I didn't look up La Crosse. I don't know how big it is, but it was bigger than Plainfield. They wanted to go somewhere less sinful.
That's super funny to me. That's something that isn't probably going to be funny to anyone who isn't from Wisconsin, but that's really funny. The sin of lacrosse.
His father died in 1940, so he and his older brother Henry, I think was like 7 years older than him or something, started working as handymen to support their mom. Um, and the things I read said that Henry was a lot less fond of their mother than Ed was. Ed just adored his mother, but Henry was like, this bitch is crazy. And would say that in front of both of them. So in 1944, there was a fire on the farm. And once they were able to put it out, they reported Henry missing. And when the police showed up, Ed just led them straight to Henry's body. And they found like some bludgeon marks on the back of his head. But they were like, he probably died in the fire. And just moved on. So there's no concrete evidence that he killed his brother, but he definitely killed his brother.
Yeah.
But again, it's a really small town, so I don't think the police have a whole lot of homicide training. So I get it. In 1945, his mother dies. And that's, I think, when he started his grave robbing, because he wanted to build a suit out of women's skin so that he could like get inside his mother's skin or something. I don't know. So fast forward back to 1958, pleads guilty, but he's found incompetent to stand trial. So they transfer him to Central State Hospital, where he worked as, and I quote, a mason, carpenter's assistant, and medical aide. Because the people at the hospital were like, this guy likes to make suits out of women's skin. We should give him carpentry tools and more medical knowledge. But by all accounts, he was a model patient. He never got in trouble, not once, except the women who worked there did say it made them very uncomfortable when they caught him staring at them.
Why?
I don't know. He seems like such a nice boy.
I mean, he's a nice guy. Like, it's,
his best
a compliment.
Is his mother.
Oh, God. For the record, I think anyone saying their best friend is their mother is weird. Even if you're a girl and your best friend's your mom, I'm like, I'm close with my mom. She's not my best friend. Rachel's my best friend. But that wasn't clear. But that's still a weird thing to say. Super ominous. The question is, did he dig up his mother?
Not that I found. But he did preserve the rooms that were associated with her, like her bedroom and the sitting room. They were like shrines to her. But I didn't see anything about him digging up his mother's body. Just random women. But the thing is, he would like dig them up and take things from them and put their bodies back in the coffin and rebury them. So like when he first confessed to all this, the police were like, there is no fucking way. That is bonker balls. And they went and they dug up these bodies and found those things missing. But in 1968, he stood trial and was found guilty but insane, so they sent him back to the hospital. And he did petition to be released in 1974.
No.
They said fuck no. And 10 years later, he died of cancer and respiratory illness. So yeah.
Wow.
Also, I just want to point out, one of those articles made a little comment, because one of the A&E articles was talking about the way he inspired all of these movie serial killers. And they were saying that he used a gun to kill his victims, whereas Norman Bates used a knife. And I just wrote on the article, if you use a knife, you're going to ruin your skin suit. And it was very late when I was reading these articles. I was very tired. I've had a very busy week, so I had to do it. And
Because
that's my defense for that.
Buffalo Bill, but the thing is, there's evidence because they say Buffalo Bill shoots them. And that there's
Does
like,
today?
that's, yes, Buffalo Bill shoots them. He doesn't like stab them or anything. And like,
Norman Bates uses a knife, is what they were saying.
No, but what I'm saying is you were saying about people that they were inspired
Oh,
by.
yeah.
Well, like, obviously there's some Buffalo Bill connections there, and they kept that. Did it talk about what exactly was the inspiration that went into Psycho with that? Was it just his obsession with his mother?
I think so. Yeah, and like cuz there was something about Ed wanting to like get in his mother's skin. So like that's where the skin suit comes from. It was like symbolically like becoming his mother. So that's where that comes from.
Well, I'm glad Hitchcock just went with dressing up as his mother.
Oh, thank God.
As opposed to wearing her skin.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I mean, I guess I didn't really know all those details about Ed Gein. I am happy to know that he did not murder all those people.
Yes.
Even though I'm not happy, nor do I approve of grave robbing or hanging up faces. Let the record show this podcast firmly is on the side of no hanging up faces or grave robbing.
No. You leave those faces on the skulls to which they are attached.
Same to you, Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Oh, man.
Oh, God. Now I'm just thinking about how that's also something they gave to, you know, which that was our movie last week. If you're not listening to them in order, that's right. There's some real connections there, as there are with a lot of the big classics. This was good. I also feel like it was a little bit less, like, even though it was grotesque, less victim torture, sad, heavy than last week was. So that's good.
Yeah, because everything that Ed Gein did was post-mortem. He shot them and then... Also, I read in one of these articles, I don't remember if it was one of the reputable ones or not, because I'm very particular about sourcing, that some people, before he got caught, did go in his house and see some of these things. And he claimed that they were like World War II artifacts that his like father or grandfather or someone related to him had gotten in Japan or something like that. And I'm like, that's not a good enough excuse. I'm sorry. If you see someone who's like, oh, no, don't worry. It's just, I didn't do it. It's from the Holocaust. You should still 100% be worried.
That's even, like, not worse, but it's just as bad. I'd still be okay.
It's the same.
But why do you want to have it? Why do you want to, like, okay, that's an explanation of why it's here. It's not an explanation. It's an explanation of why it exists. It's not an explanation of why it's here.
Yes, exactly. Also, I didn't write down when this happened, but it was after he was in the hospital. His house was burned down, and it seems like it was deliberately set, and the police didn't really investigate it that much because who gives a shit? But people did come in, and they were able to get his car and a couple other things, which they auctioned off. So there's someone out there, maybe it's been destroyed, but someone out there theoretically owns Ed Gein's car. And that's a person that you need to be worried about.
Yeah, I don't like the serial killer collection thing. There was something I was going to ask you, and now I don't remember what it was. About Ed Gein, about his house. Oh, did he target the sheriff's mom?
I don't think so, because he was, he was found guilty, but and he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. I think they were victims of opportunity. Oh.
Well, very good, Rachel. Very good job.
Thanks.
Very good pick. You got to see Psycho.
I did. I was excited about it.
So, I guess this is the point where we decide what's more horrifying. I mean, that's not really fair, though, because, like, I would rather stay at the Bates Motel overnight than spend 2 minutes in that house.
Uh-huh.
Like, I seriously would be like, fine, whatever. I'm just gonna sit in this corner with a chair and like leave me alone, Norma. But like, I'm gonna say real life on that. I mean, obviously no, you know what? I'm gonna say real life. I'm gonna say real life.
Yeah, because I think that's fair because even though he has his mummified mother, most people don't know that. Like it's not like it's in every room of there's a piece of her in every room. In all 12 rooms, 12 vacant rooms of the motel. That would be horrifying.
Would that be worse than just one corpse to you? That it's like you can go into the mother hand room, the mother. Okay, we've gone off track. Like we clearly have gone off track. Thank you guys for listening again. We didn't say this last week, but of course, you can tweet at us or go on our Instagram if there is, if you have a question for us or if there is a movie that you really want us to do. I will just say this, we pre-record. So if you wrote a question or of something that you want to know and it's about any of the previous episodes, we just haven't, it just hasn't happened yet. It's happened for you yet, but it hasn't happened for us yet. So we're not ignoring them or ignoring any of the suggestions. And, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it, put the word out there, follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
At True Horrors Pod.
Yes.
I'm positive that's what it is this time.
Good. And next week we will be doing the first movie in my favorite horror series of all time. We'll be doing Scream.
Yay!
And just for clarification, we're only doing one. I'm not going to... I thought about waiting until, like, my birthday or our year anniversary and being like, watch all 4 of them and we'll discuss all of them. But we're just going to do the first one. Love Scream. And that's what we're going to be doing. And we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening.
Goodbye.